The wall nobody talks about. You sent out 40 applications last month, maybe 60. You customized your bullet points, updated your formatting, and even paid for one of those resume templates that looks clean and professional. And still, silence. At some point, it stops feeling like a resume problem. It starts feeling like a you problem. But here's what is actually going on. A hiring manager at a Fortune 500 company once ran an experiment. He created a fake candidate, built a resume from scratch, and submitted it through his own company's job portal for a role he knew was open. His application was automatically rejected before a single person on his team ever saw it. That is the system most job seekers are up against right now. And the worst part is, almost nobody explains how it actually works. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why your resume is getting rejected and precisely what to do. But we have to start at the part that is silently eliminating most applications before they even get a chance. The silent gatekeeper. When you apply for a job at most companies, your resume does not land in a recruiter's inbox. It lands in software. These are called applicant tracking systems. And according to research, 98% of Fortune 500 companies use them. Even a growing number of mid-sized businesses have adopted them. The software scans your resume for specific keywords, ranks it against other applicants, and only sends the top results to an actual human. If your resume doesn't score high enough, it's gone. No rejection email, just silence. Now, the first thing people do when they hear this is start stuffing their resume with keywords, and that's actually a mistake. Modern applicant tracking platforms have gotten smarter. They can detect when keywords are crammed in unnaturally, and they penalize it. The goal isn't to trick the system. It's to write a resume that satisfies both the software and the person who eventually reads it. Here's what actually works. Read the job description closely. Find the terms that appear most frequently, things like specific tools, certifications, job titles, or methodologies. Then use those exact terms naturally inside your bullet points and summary. Not synonyms, the exact terms. If the posting says stakeholder management, don't write cross-functional coordination. If it says agile methodology, don't write iterative project workflows. Applicant tracking systems match keywords literally, and the difference between getting filtered in and getting filtered out can come down to one phrase. One more thing that trips people up, and that's formatting. If your resume has multiple columns, text boxes, tables, or design elements from tools like Canva, the software often can't parse it correctly. Your job titles end up out of order, your dates disappear, your contact information lands in the wrong section. The safest format is a single-column layout, standard section headers, a clean font like Arial or Calibri, and your contact information in the body of the document, not in the header or footer. It's not the prettiest resume in the world, but it's the one that actually gets read. The 7-second window. Once your resume clears the software, it lands on a recruiter screen. And here's where most people get blindsided. Multiple eye-tracking studies and recruiter surveys suggest that the initial scan of a resume takes somewhere between 7 and 30 seconds. Not minutes, seconds. In that window, recruiters are looking at three things almost exclusively: your most recent job title, the company name, and the very first line of your most recent role. That's it. If those three things don't immediately signal a strong match, the resume gets moved to the no pile before anyone reads a single bullet point. So the structure of your resume matters enormously. Your most recent experience needs to be at the top of the page. Your job title needs to clearly match or closely mirror the role you're applying for. And that first bullet under each position needs to be your strongest result. Not a job duty, not a responsibility, but an outcome. The difference looks like this. A duty would read, managed client accounts across the Northeast region. An outcome reads, grew Northeast client portfolio by 34% in 18 months, adding $2.1 million in annual recurring revenue. The first one tells a recruiter what you are assigned to do. The second tells them what you actually delivered. And in a 7-second scan, only one of those is going to stop the scroll. Summary that opens doors. Right below your name and contact information, your resume needs a professional summary, not an objective statement. Those went out of fashion over a decade ago. A summary. And here's the thing about summaries. Most people write them last, treat them like a formality, and fill them with phrases like results-driven professional or dynamic team player. Those phrases tell a recruiter nothing. They're the resume equivalent of saying, "I'm a good person." A strong summary is 3 to 5 sentences, maximum. It opens with your title and years of relevant experience, then names 1 or 2 specific strengths backed by a real result, and it closes with what you're focused on next. Here's what an example of what that actually looks like. Operations Director with 11 years leading supply chain teams across manufacturing and retail. Reduced fulfillment costs by 22% at 2 consecutive companies through vendor renegotiation and process redesign. Currently targeting senior leadership roles with a focus on operational scale and margin improvement. 3 sentences, no fluff, and now a recruiter knows exactly who you are, what you've done, and what you want. That's the entire job of a summary. Do it in under 5 lines or cut it. Language matters. This one is subtle, but it makes a massive difference. Recruiters scan down the left side of your bullet points. According to research from Tufts University's Career Center, they read the first few words of each line and use that to assess your level of seniority. If your bullets start with helped, supported, assisted, or participated in, you're signaling that you weren't in the driver's seat, even if you were running the whole thing. The language of ownership looks different. Led, launched, built, drove, owned, redesigned, negotiated, delivered. These aren't just stronger verbs, they change the whole bullet reads. Compare these two. First, supported the migration of internal systems to cloud infrastructure. Second, led migration of legacy systems to cloud, cutting infrastructure costs by 25% and reducing downtime incidents by 40%. Same project, completely different impression. And while you're updating your verbs, make sure you're including both the full spelling and the abbreviation for any certification or tool that matters. If you have a Project Management Professional certification, write out Project Management Professional and then put the abbreviation PMP right after it. If you work with search engine optimization, write the full term first and then SEO in parentheses after that. Recruiters search both ways, and the software filters both ways. Using only one version cuts your visibility in half. If you're finding this useful, go ahead and subscribe. This channel covers the strategies that actually move the needle in your job search, and there's a lot more where this came from. The trap. Here's something that a lot of people are doing that's quietly killing their response rate. They build one resume and send it everywhere. According to data from LinkedIn and Talent Board, 52% of all resume rejections come down to one thing. The resume didn't speak to the specific role. Not wrong experience, not missing qualifications, just a failure to connect what the candidate had done to what the company actually needed. Tailoring your resume doesn't mean rewriting the whole thing for every job. It means reading the job description carefully and adjusting 3 things. First, the summary, to reflect the language and priorities of that specific role. Second, the order of your bullet points, so the most relevant achievements appear first. And third, the skills section, to include the exact tools and certifications named in the posting. That's it. 20 minutes of targeted adjustment can be the difference between ghosted and hired. The gaps. Here is where a lot of people make a mistake that feels logical but actually backfires. They go quiet about the complicated parts of their career. The gap year, the 3-month role that ended badly, the pivot that does not quite fit a linear narrative. The instinct is to leave it vague and hope the recruiter doesn't notice. But in recruiting, vague does not feel safe. It feels risky. When a recruiter sees an unexplained gap or a very short tenure, they fill in the blank themselves, and they rarely fill it in generously. A much better approach is a single line of honest context. If you left the role early because of a restructuring, say so. One line, no drama. It would read something like this. Operations Manager, March 2022 to May 2022. Position eliminated in company-wide restructuring. currently seeking a stable long-term opportunity. If you took time away from work, own it the same way. Career break, January 2023 to July 2023. Full-time family caregiving. Available and fully committed now. That is all it takes. No elaborate explanation, no apology. Just enough context that the recruiter doesn't have to guess. Resume length. Every few years, this debate comes back around. 1 page or 2? Here's the current consensus from hiring managers and career professionals. If you have under 10 years of experience, stick to 1 page. If you have 10 to 20 years of experience, 2 pages is appropriate. If you're a senior executive or have an extensive specialized background, 3 pages can work, but every single line needs to earn its spot. And critically, your resume does not need to be a complete history. It needs to be a curated signal. Focus your depth on the last 5 to 7 years. Older roles can stay on the resume, but trim them to 2 or 3 bullets each, and only if they are still relevant to what you're targeting today. Recruiters spend 65% of their reading time on your work experience section. That's where your real estate is. Use it on the things that matter most to the job in front of you. The LinkedIn factor. One last thing that's easy to overlook. According to data from Resume Go, candidates who include a link to an active LinkedIn profile get 71% more interview invitations than those who don't. Yet fewer than half of job seekers include one. Your LinkedIn profile is not a digital copy of your resume. It's an extension of it. It's where a recruiter goes after your resume makes a strong first impression. It's where your recommendations, your portfolio, your career story, and your personality can live in a way that a 1-page document never can. Make sure your LinkedIn headline matches the role you're targeting. Make sure your About section reads naturally and reinforces what your resume promises. And make sure both documents are telling the same story. If your resume says one thing and your LinkedIn says something slightly different, that's a trust gap most recruiters will not overlook. The interview on paper. Here's the thing about a great resume that doesn't get said enough. It's not the finish line, it's the opening move. Every bullet you write, every word you choose, every result you include, that's all material that a skilled hiring manager is going to walk into your interview ready to explore. So be honest, be specific, and be consistent. If you can hold a conversation about everything on that document, your resume is not just getting you interviews, it's setting you up to win them. If this video helped you, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And send this to someone you know who's in the middle of a job search. Sometimes one video is the thing that finally makes it click.